fill in the context, the contract was signed with New Earth to bring in the services in the month of June 2022. And then at that point, we were adjourned for the summer months. So the ramping up took place. In the beginning in September until roughly into January, we were having a lot of adjustment, overlapping, and then setting up protocols so that we can refer students from our high school program into the New Earth services. We could have done a better job those first few months, but that's on us. We were able to move things out of the way to allow additional opportunity for students to either self-refer or actually being referred by site administrators. So what you saw tonight was the result from 4 months of services from about the beginning of January until now, and there's 270 plus students. I just want to have that into the context is that we were structurally struggle trying to set things up as well as trying to put in the protocol that would work for our site staff to take full advantage of newer services.
Okay, we're going to start with Board Member Kim.
It's really good to see you, and thank you for being here. I know it's a very long night. I know tonight was not easy. So I do want to start by apologizing for that. I am sorry that you had to hear so many disparaging comments directed at you. And I don't know that it solves anything, but I do just want to own it and say that's really on us. We're not doing enough to educate our community about how invaluable what you're providing is right now to our students in our community. So we really set tonight up, and we need to do better. I know that you're saving lives, and we need to figure out how to communicate that out right now. I think I hear you, Joelle, and I ask questions too about what motivates some of the most hostile pushback that we hear on this partnership. I can leave that there for now. I have one question. We do continue to get, through all of the feedback that is less informed. We do occasionally get feedback that does seem like it's informed. And I am hearing some feedback about referral. And I know that, again, this is really on the structures that we have in place and didn't have in place. Mm-hmm. So I want to acknowledge all the bottlenecks that existed, but I get the impression that there may still be some. And I want to know more about how we can support freeing that up, because it, I guess if we could speak more about the referral system, and you acknowledge that self-referral is in place, but if there are other ways that we can allow you to interact more with the students that may need to see and hear from you, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, and I would love to invite Veronica up here to speak on it as well. But I will say that, we made an amazing, beautiful video, and admin had requested it to share with all the classrooms so we could create more exposure for New Earth. I don't know if that was ever shared, but I think that video could be really powerful. I don't know if the board's had a chance to see it. It's less than 2 minutes. And it really outlines all the services we provide and speaks to the student body as well as the teachers and staff. We're planning a few events here in the next few days to really create some more buzz about our organization and have students that haven't met us meet with us. So that will kind of help generate the self-referral process. But any other thoughts, Veronica?
Yeah, currently our referrals are coming from admin, counselors, and we do have a few self-referrals. Again, I think when we share those videos and that promotion gets out more students will be aware, more teachers will be aware. I think it's just that they just don't know. Mm-hmm. And so the self-referrals that we have received are based off of all the rapport that we've been working so hard to build, that trust, because the students just don't trust anyone. They're starting to trust us, and so they're bringing their friends to room 3. Students see us laughing with students and helping people, and they see us in passing and stop by and say, like, I'm having a hard time, can I come in? They're self-referrals. So that's kind of the basis, that's the baseline that we're at right now. But yeah, the events coming up during lunch on Friday and next week will probably help as well.
If I may just follow up on that, because I have this, it's my own anxiety, so maybe you can put it to rest, but that it's the end of the year, and so how will we know that this is going to be impactful for the coming fall in terms of that referral process?
I can speak a little bit about that. On Friday and then next week for our kind of lunch activation, we also offer the students summer programming. So we'll have summer, New Earth will be opening their doors to all of Culver City students, especially the ones that we're working with that are on the 130 track, the ones that are already connected with us, that having a hard time re-engaging, have a lot of tardies, truancy. We're going to try to get them into our programming, lots of arts programming, positive, like acting and performance arts and things to get them kind of re-engaged in just work. And that's at no cost to parents. We feed them healthy meals by every table. So there'll be, like, any contact they make, we'll maintain it through the summer because we know that our most vulnerable youth really get in trouble in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I didn't know that. Thank you.
And also, just to add to that, with that, we'll continue to provide our care management services through the summer, and that will be available to students whether they're participating in the summer school or not.
Great. Superintendent, are we able to get any attendance data as related to our New Earth partnership, or is that going to be too like conflated with other stuff? Are we able to parse it out at all?
We would try to begin gathering that information, but like there might be overlapping of reasons, but at
Right.
least we have a starting point. We will be looking at that as well. So at least we have 270 names that we can work
Right.
with, and then just gathering everything about that group
Right.
and compare to I have to see all the numbers, and then Dr. Smith and I will be
Okay.
parsing that out somehow.
And not that that's the only data point that's of interest. It's nonetheless an important one because attendance is so impactful on so many other outcomes.
And we've been also just sort of tracking our own attendance data. Do you want to speak on that a little bit, Joel?
Again, as previously stated, I was a student at Culver, and I had tremendous trouble with attendance throughout my high school academic career. So I know that there is multiple issues, a myriad of issues that might prevent a child from attending class. So that would be my responsibility to just figure out what's going on. And a lot of the times, the students that I'm referred to are either on iAcademy or they're just chronically absent, meaning like they're literally never there. So it's hard for me to contact them. Other students have communicated that they just have a problem being motivated. Their teachers aren't supporting them how they feel they need to be supported. They're being told to leave. They're being told that they essentially don't matter. And I personally can sympathize with that because I was told the same things. So that's the problem that we're dealing with right now with attendance. Just the amount of referrals that I'm getting, majority of these students are pretty much impossible to contact.
But of the referrals that he is getting, we have the attendance scale that we've shared, and so he's able to track just on his own, not with any school data, but just to seeing how students are now showing up. So the 42% or whatever that number was, or the 61% that we were able to track is really from looking at who he's starting with and what their attendance sort of level is. A lot of it is chronic absenteeism or just not showing up at all to actually starting to show up. Maybe if it's once a week, but that's showing change and tracking improvement.
Absolutely, and multiple parents have even contacted me themselves, just thanking me just for initiating contact with the student because that's all they needed. And that's, for me, proved to be a tremendous effort because if I can get 5, 10, 15 students to just attend one class when they weren't attending any for the whole semester, that's a win that I have to take. Because a lot of these students are, very chronically absent. Like, they never attend class. So it's just been a struggle, and I feel like, it's a tremendous effort on our behalf to come in contact with these students and just explain to them the benefits of going to class, just showing up. That's half of the battle.
That you just answered my final question, so thank you all so much. I really enjoyed this.
Board Member Loredo.
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Board Member Guerrero.
Thank you, and thank you for sticking it out and being with us. So I approach this and kind of every program from the same perspective, in that public education is horribly underfunded. There's not enough money to do all the things that our students need. You know, in some ways, Culver City is very lucky, but we still have an awful lot of needs and not enough to fund everything our students need. So in my mind, every program, every position, you know, whether it's assistant principals or counselors or this tutoring program or that tutoring program or this type of intervention program, has to go through occasional review and figuring out, is the money that we're putting into that having the effect, and is it having more effect than something else that we could do with that same amount of money? And so to a certain extent, it's a critical perspective of everything, because we can't do everything we want to do, so we've got to figure out what has the most effect on our students. In some ways, I don't, the information and the anecdotal stuff from the students is very helpful, but it doesn't necessarily shed all the light on some of this that I would want to see about, you know, you've got information about there and the number of students. But some of it is still very kind of surface level data, because it's just saying things like high risk, but we don't really know what goes into that high risk determination. Some kids are moderate risk, but we don't really know what goes into that determination. We don't know of the touch points and things. Are those mostly the high risk students? Are those the low risk students? The original contract estimated that you'd be servicing about 400 kids this year. You're saying you've got 272. So the superintendent said that there were some bugs getting things started, but that's lower than I think everybody was expecting this year. You know, so like I said, the data is not as robust as I would hope to see, and I will definitely follow up with some, you know, other kinds of things, but I know that's also something that we're hearing from the public. For example, just kind of following up on that one, we were originally hoping to have 400 students in the system. Contract says about 800 students next year. So what are you imagining will happen between now and next year that's going to triple the number of students that you're seeing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So I think it took us a while to ramp up, right? And so if you look at the data and that we're able to serve 272 students within a 4-month period, if you double that, that's over 500 students. That's, you know, close to 600 students. So, and that's just with the resources we currently have. Obviously, with additional resources, an additional year contract, we can triple that. So I don't see, just given that we've been able to show the data that we have been able to show in just a 4-month period, I think that those numbers are completely doable. To answer your question about risk, how do we track risk? We've been working with high-risk populations since 2004. So for us, risk is a young person who is at risk for entering the justice system, a young person that is at risk for expulsion or suspension, a young person who is at risk for high levels of trauma, and a young person who is, lack of a better word, at risk for losing their life. And so our interventions prevent that. In terms of how many of those students are high risk or low risk from the touch points, it's really the percentage, the pie chart that Veronica shared. So mostly we work with high risk students.
There's a reference in there to Tier 4 students. Okay, what is Tier 4? I'm not familiar with that.
Right, so Tier 4 are those students who have high levels of trauma, who have chronic absenteeism, who have potential for expulsion or suspension, strong potential, and students for whom other interventions have not been successful. So interventions by staff and counselors and admin. And that's why they're referring them to us.
So is Tier 4 kind of your own nomenclature for this? Does it come from a source?
So Tier 4 has been sort of talked about within the district and within the schools. So when we started, Tier 4 was really mentioned, and if you want to talk more on that.
Well, I can add that often in our multi-tiered system of support, Tier 3 would often be lending itself toward a student that would qualify for special education services. Well, that is really not the case with most of our students. Those students have, in terms of the triangle, we've got about 10% of our kids that just have levels of trauma that are not responding to our best counselors, and we've got great counselors. The level of service that they need, food, love, care, psychology, mentoring, those level of services combined put them in a Tier 4 category. Many of our students, I've been interacting with many of our students who've been suspended. Many of those suspended students would be those students that be quite, gifted in one hand, but are just completely disconnected. Their level of social emotional need and support is very deep. That's how I categorize that. Would categorize those students.
Okay, that's like a local creation though, because there is no Tier 4 standard MTSS.
Well, no, but Tier 3 plus. So we could, if we did Tier 3 plus, but these are not students typically in a tiered system. Tier 3 students are heading toward an assessment for an IEP, multiple SSTs. These are students whereas aforementioned interventions have not worked. I would posit to say a lot of it is connection, a lot of it is relationship, a lot of it is distrust, a lot of it is relational trust, a lot of it is cultural connection. Those students are the ones that keep us up at night.
For sure. Okay. You all mentioned meal assistance a couple of times and providing meals after school and meals during the summer. Is that through the school's free and reduced lunch program or the after school program, or is that something you all are providing?
It's something we're providing.
Is there a reason you're not going through the school's free and reduced lunch program or the after school program that provides
Sure.
meals?
So when we're on campus, it's really snacks that we're providing. The meals, when I speak on the meals, that's really for families, and it's not food that's being provided on campus, it's grocery assistance. So essentially, we're able to provide free groceries on a weekly basis to families who are food insecure. So it's two different things.
Okay. Do you have any number on how many families you're providing that for?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it was 30 families. Yes, 30 families.
And are you able to connect them into social services or any type of other thing that's a longer term solution?
Yes.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about credentials, because that's something that's come up a lot?
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's somebody who's got an MSW who supervises somebody who's got the licensed clinical, who is a
Other way
licensed.
around. We have the LCSW that supervises the MSW, who provides therapy.
Okay. So there is one LCSW person. Two. Okay. Are they on campus?
No, they're not on campus. They're providing supervision to the MSW from our center, and sometimes they show up on campus, but mainly they're not stationed on campus.
So they don't need to be present in order to supervise?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. And then there is just the single MSW at the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question for Mr. Tran. There was also a question about supervision and how we are okay having students, because again, I know as a classroom teacher, I can't even leave students alone with an aide. There has got to be a certificated person with them at all times. And I know we do that with our, if we've got a guest musician or something like that, somebody's got to be in the room with them. How are we okay in these types of situations?
If I can invite our presenter to address that, and I can provide the context afterward as well.
Sure. So as I mentioned, we have 20 years of experience in youth development. We specialize in working with young people ages 13 to 25. From what I understand, because we also run a school, we have a school at our center in Culver City, which you're all invited to come see and see what we do there. But the teacher needs to be present if there is a course that's being provided that needs to be credentialed. But we have teachers and we have staff. They all have been background checked. They've all gone through TB testing. They go through all of the processes. Those that provide any sort of therapy are obviously licensed. And those that don't provide therapy provide case management services.
And I'm not questioning their quality as people, but I'm not sure that that covers our responsibility for supervision.
Every student that we send over to New Earth is actually the teachers of New Earth. It's not the teacher of record. So to a certain degree, the students who are sent over there for supplemental services, they're rostered under our own CCUSD teacher.
Yeah, I'm not talking about rostering, though. I mean, I'm specifically talking about supervision, and there's certain cases like noon when kids can be out under the general supervision of somebody, but we're not supposed to have kids without a credentialed person just for supervision issues, is my understanding. So, I mean, I think that's something we need to follow up on.
Let me find out.
Firm on that.
Right. The original context, when I was introduced to New Earth, is that when our students were into kind of a criminal suspended CCPD scenario, CCPD part of the I guess it's called
Diversion program.
Program was sent to New Earth to be cared for. So in that context, these are our own students that once upon a time did something, and then CCP took over that portion and sent them to the New Earth for diversion program. And then once they achieved that, they were able to reapply for readmission back to our school district.
Right.
So let me find out some more. I don't
Yeah.
want to speculate something this important.
Because PD has a different supervision responsibility than a school.
But I also do want to mention that through the diversion program, before we started this contract, we were on campus providing a diversion program, and there was no other teacher in the room, and that was with CCHS and CCPD, and that's sort of how that program worked. So that's how sort of this evolved, because we had so much success with that program, with the diversion program. It was on campus.
Okay, thank you. And then for your enrichment programs, can you go, I know you mentioned a couple of numbers, for the Arts and Chill, about how many students participate in that?
So there's anywhere from like maybe 15 to 25 students that regularly attend.
Okay, how about the Stage of Life?
About same, sometimes up to 22, 23 students, sometimes about 16.
Okay.
So it varies.
And Flow?
Flow, same. We have up to 20, 25 students that attend, sometimes less, depends what,
Okay. And there was mention of a music class that sounds really interesting, that it might be credit bearing in the future. How would that work?
So we've been working with Mr. Jack Aaron that runs the music classes at the Culver City High School, and actually Joelle, who's also one of our flow instructors, has been working with him to offer a benefit to the class. So the admin team at Culver City High School actually connected us with him, and we're looking to see how we can make that credit bearing. Our flow curriculum is actually based at on the California Common Standard. So that's how it works. And then since we've been working for many years with LACO, where we made that course credit bearing, and also in our school itself, it is credit bearing. So we're looking at avenues, how can we do that at the high school as well? So every student that's actually coming also receives another benefit, especially because they need credits.
Right.
So how do we, get that gap closed, and what can we do in an innovative way to meet that need?
Okay, thank you. And just a couple more. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. That security guard training, it sounds like a really useful thing for the security guards. Was there any kind of evaluation afterwards where you got feedback from the security guards on that we can use to look at, how impactful that was or anything like that?
So we've done 2 of the 3-part series. We have one more coming. So we did a pre-assessment survey to just kind of measure,
Okay.
get a baseline on their understanding on trauma-informed de-escalation techniques, how comfortable they are with those things. And we'll take in another survey at the end of this series to see how much we have created improvement. Did they learn something from the training?
Okay, and the last one is that 6-7 date, so they got one more session.
And
Yeah,
then
I
we'll
mean, I
be
think
able
that
to
would
provide that for you.
definitely be useful data.
Yep.
And then just really quick looking at it, so you've got 14 responses kind of reported out on that student survey. There were 23 questions. Can we get the percentages for the other questions as well?
Sure. Yes.
Just so we can get that complete picture. Do you know how many students took the survey?
Yeah, we had about 75 students, and we
Okay.
have more responses coming in. We've just been very organically providing those surveys. And, you know, I think someone mentioned something about forcing them to put their name. It's completely anonymous. They don't have to put their name.
Okay, and those are the kids who are participating, the students who are participating in the program. Okay. And when it's just kind of as they come in, it's an ongoing?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. That's what I have for tonight. So thank you. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
providing this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And I look forward to some of the additional data.
Board Member Isidore.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for hanging with us until the wee hours of what's about to be the next day. Just have a few questions. If you could start by just explaining the difference between, and maybe you touched on it, so maybe my fault for not fully grasping in the beginning, the difference between serviced and touch points.
Service and touch points. So touch points are basically every single time we connect with a student. It could be a case management meeting. It could be they're involved in a program. It could be a conversation. It's just every time we just connect with the student. The service I think you're referring to is the 272. So those are our unique numbers. Those are just students that we see on a daily basis or a weekly basis or every other day. It just depends. But that's how many total students we are working with currently.
The 200 number. Okay, great. And the 1706 touch point number, is that individual students, or is that 1706 touch points overall?
It's across the 272 students.
Would
so it really all depends. You know, one student might get 100 touch points. You know, one student might get 50. It just really depends on their need, and it depends on how they participate with us.
Thank you so much. And it's not a question, but a statement just to staff. I thank my colleague, Mr. Guerrero, for asking that question about the LCSW supervising the MSW. I look forward to getting that response once we have, but I also hope that we can figure out a way that these responses aren't just in the Friday memo. I think that the public also are curious about the supervising qualifications, and if there's a way that we can share that with the community, I think that would be worthwhile for us to look into. And last questions are on slides 12 and 13. They're the student voices in their words slides. Really powerful to me, so thank you. I just have a question on how it was gathered. Was there just a survey with drop downs of how you would feel and then the percentage based on how many students clicked the boxes?
Yeah, so it was, each question had a 1 through 6 scale, right? With 1 being you totally disagree and 6 being you totally agree. I think, yeah, that survey is there. And so we just measured the 5 and 6s to find out what percentage actually agreed with those statements.
And that was the 75 figure?
Which
75.
question are you referring to? There was a 75%?
I think Mr. Guerrero asked a question about the students survey.
Oh, yeah, the 75, yes,
So that was
surveys.
for that survey. Okay,
Correct.
that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I guess I just want to just recap where we're at. So last year, there was a big altercation at the high school, and the students were all sent to New Earth because they were doing the diversion program. And at the time, the past board decided we need to expand services to our students. We're, still in a pandemic at that time, and we were putting our services back together. At the time, this was seen as a temporary contract to add support services to our students. It was never seen as a supplement instead of counselors, instead of teachers, it was always seen as, how can we support our students with someone or a vendor such as New Earth that is already doing this type of work, right? And I just want to say, I'm very grateful, and I have been attending PTA meetings, and I think it's important for our board to know that this question at almost every single PTA meeting that I've attended has been asked of us, of how do we feel about New Earth, and where are we going with this? And I always say, just like our economy continues to be disrupted by the pandemic, our students are, just because we're calling the pandemic over, does not mean that our students are back to, where they were March 12, 2020. They continue to need support. They continue to need resources. And I am very concerned that there is an ask to remove services from our students at a time when we have received, where we continue to have students come and speak to us about the need for mental health services, where we have reports by the CDC talking about the serious crisis in mental health, where we see LACO asking us to have individualized plans. It just seems like it's not the best idea to remove anything to support our students. And, at this time, I am only thinking about each and every student, those 275, who would have supported them if New Earth was not there. I'm not thinking about that we didn't reach the 400, because my understanding is that this PO is based on what the work that is being done, not the work that is expected to be done. And so if you do X work, then you bill for X work. Now, I understand there's a lot of opportunity with new administration at the high school, new administration at the middle school, to amplify this service and share the resources. I really think it's important for us to think about how can, a board vote on supporting our students translate to how can our students be supported at the sites, right? What are the connections that we need to make between the vote and the work that needs to happen at the site? And that's what I'm interested in learning more about, because if we didn't get to 400, it's not just the responsibility of New Earth if New Earth is basing their services on referrals. It seems to be that this is a partnership where the referrals need to increase for them to get to 400. And at the same time, is that the goal, to reach the 400, or is it the goal to serve them as best we can? So that's where I'm at. I don't have any questions. I think the only thing that came up today was one of our staff, and I would ask for you to respond, for one of our staff said, we don't get paid $225. Why are they getting paid $225? So I'd like, if there's any opportunity to answer that question.
May I?
Sure.
So the contract language is pretty clear. The 225, and I would refer anyone to go back to the June 2022 contract. stated that the amount of dollar charge per hour is for materials, supplies, equipment, staff time, administrative costs, and travel costs. When the invoice came in, it is calculated in a per hour unit, but that doesn't translate to someone get that $225 total. It is for materials, supplies, equipment, so on and so forth. Just like I said, there's a misconception that I would have to take what Dr. Kent shared seriously. We need to communicate more because this became a talking point that is incorrect.
Yeah. Another thing I heard from our community today was that the counselors attend Culver Needs, and I think I would like to ask Ms. Montes if we can invite New Earth to attend Culver Needs. It's a partnership with different organizations, and our counselors do attend that.
And we have attended it in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great,
absolutely.
great. I think that's all the questions from our community. Go, Mr. Isidore?
Are you done? I just have one quick question that I realized I forgot to ask to the superintendent before I pass my time. I just have a question about working in collaboration with Culver Park. Would New Earth be competing with Culver Park? Would they be working together?
The initial conversation is still with the group that is formulating the plan to be presented to the board soon. I am thinking that New Earth has a series of services and embedded expertise that will somehow wrapped up nicely with what we are creating for our Culver Park students. I don't know whether that is just simply services above and beyond, or is simply services that's built in. But there is definitely more conversation about combining the services rather than competing and supplanting each other's effort. So I would explore that and hoping that we can get additional guidance and input from our committee that's working on alternative education program.
Yeah. And I think the last thing that I have, and it's about how, oh my God, it just skipped my mind. Yes, I remember. There was information about grocery support, summer support this summer. And I just want our community to know exactly, is that part of your other grants that you receive, or is that part of the 225 you invoice us?
No, that's part of our other grants that we receive.
Can
that we
you
make available?
Clarify, like, these are all supports that are grant funded that we offer to your students for free. Can you tell us what those are? Because I think that it's important.
Yeah, so anything with subsidized rental support, grocery support, anything we're doing on site at our center in Culver City. So when we do summer school, that will all be offered by us. Anything we're providing on site at Culver City High School or middle school is part of the contract.
Okay, got it. Okay, so the summer program this summer, if any of our students go this summer, it's not going to cost CCUSD a dime.
No. I mean, obviously the case management piece will continue. That'll be part of the contract, but the summer program, no, will not cost CCUSD a dime.
Mr. Trin?
Thank you, President Amazon. I remember the conversation we first started way back when I first sat down with our New Earth counterparts. The context is to create safe places with trusting adults that students could come and speak on almost any issue at any time, to find a place where they could calm down and de-escalate it. I think the purpose of New Earth is somewhat unique, and I think we still have a long way to go, but I think we're on the right path to get there. And more information will be forthcoming. I do need to support Mr. Guerrero's desire to see more data. That is an important thing for us to bring back to the board. And we have to do a better job of communicating the work that is being done and the benefit that is our students are receiving. More information will be forthcoming.
And if I may, and I don't know if this is the time to do this, though, if this is something that the board feels is appropriate and important to continue, I do think we should have amongst ourselves a discussion and a vote to continue it, rather than just kind of rolling over the contract. I have read the contract. The contract is fairly vague about the term. There's a start date, there's no end date. It seems to be kind of a month-to-month invoice-based thing with some annual targets, but not, this is the term of the contract type of a thing. And I do think that given the questions, I think it is worth it for the five of us to have a discussion. If this is the direction that the board feels that we should go in and continue, then I think it would be appropriate to affirm that rather than just having this roll forward.
Okay. Thank you so much for your support today. I appreciate you spending the evening with us. May I ask our parliamentarian?
I move that this meeting be adjourned to Wednesday, May 24th, 2023 at 4 p.m. at the District Office Boardroom as authorized by Government Code Section 54955, and that the superintendent be directed to post a written notice of adjournment within 24 hours. And since the adjournment is within 24 hours, from what I understand, that's not necessary. Within 24 hours, according to the guidance that we have from council, at the resumption of the adjourned meeting, we can continue with the meeting according to the agenda posted for the original meeting. Agenda items that were taken up in the original meeting, including public comment, need not be taken up again. It's as if we are adjourning, we're going to recess for just a few hours. So that is my motion at hand.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. I invite everybody to read the memo from legal that explains the continuation meeting. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you so much for this evening. I will see you tomorrow.
Today.
Or today. See you today.
We're so late, we're early.